Welcome back to the Augustana Observer Podcast. I'm your host, Jaren Smith. Today I sat down with Augustana basketball player forward Nicolas Giliberto to talk about our NBA playoff predictions for this upcoming NBA postseason. Thank you all for tuning in, and I hope you all enjoy this week's episode of the Augustana Observer Podcast. Welcome back to the Augustana Observer Podcast. Today is a special edition where we're going to be talking about the NBA. I wanted to give my guests a chance to introduce themselves.
My name's Nick Giliberto. I'm a player on the Augustana basketball team. I'm a forward on the team, and I'm a sophomore.
So how would you describe your experience so far?
It's been great. Loving it. Love the atmosphere. Came in as a freshman, started, and then last year played some minutes, but enjoying the process for sure.
I understand. Well, I kind of gathered you here just to talk about the NBA because with the play-in tournament starts, I believe, tomorrow, and then the playoffs start this weekend. The first real question I want to ask you is, what would you say is your favorite NBA team?
I'm a Suns fan. I'm from Phoenix, Arizona, so.
I was going to say, so do you have pretty high expectations for the Suns? Because I'm saying they've got arguably two of the best scorers in the NBA with Devin Booker and Kevin Durant.
Yeah, I think that we're definitely contenders for the West, so looking forward to see what they do.
Gotcha. So kind of talking about some of the already predetermined matchups, because with the play-in tournament, we won't know who the 7th and 8th seeds are just yet. So, we can start with the Suns and Clippers. What do you kind of think about how that series is going to go?
I think it's going to be a scrappy one. I think that we have a little rivalry, not as significant as Dallas, but they're not in here. But I think it'll be good. See the matchup between maybe Kawhi and KD, and see Westbrook get after it against some of our guards. So I think it'll be fun to watch.
Yeah, I agree. And I think out of all some of the first round matchups and even some of the potential matchups, I think this might be the one that will for sure go to 7 games. Because I can see either team winning. As much as me myself, because Chris Paul is one of my favorite point guards. But also I'm a huge Russell Westbrook fan. But I think I wouldn't be upset either way. But as long as it's a good series, I wouldn't be too upset. But what would you say out of even the first and second seeds in both conferences, the Nuggets, the Grizzlies, the Bucks, Celtics, or even some of the play-in teams? Do you think there's a specific team that has the most pressure on them?
I think the Nuggets have a lot of pressure just because of how well they've performed this year. They have, an MVP caliber player in Jokic, but I don't think that they're going to perform as well in the playoffs as people think. So I think they have a lot of pressure to keep going, and, they could get upset pretty early on.
I was going to say, that does go into my next question. Do you think there's going to be any upset alerts? And just if I need to refresh your memory, some of the matchups, the Nuggets will be playing the 8th seed, which we don't know who that. It's likely it'll be between the Pelicans and the Timberwolves. The Grizzlies will play the 7th seed, which is likely between the Lakers. Actually, the Lakers play the Timberwolves. The Pelicans play the Thunder. So I had that flipped. So the 7th seed is likely to be either the Lakers or the Timberwolves. And the 8th seed is likely to be either the Pelicans or the Thunder. So you got the Grizzlies in there, Kings and Warriors, which, a lot of people, I won't really know if that'll be upset because the Warriors are the defending champs, but the Kings, they haven't made the playoffs in, I think, 16 years. But, yeah, I think I would not be surprised if the Nuggets were upset. I don't think they'd be upset in the first round, though. I think it would more so be hypothetically, if the Nuggets play the Warriors, I wouldn't be surprised if the Warriors were able to win. Because I want to say the Nuggets and Warriors played last year also, and I think they won in 5 games.
Yeah, I can't really remember
that. Now, because I asked you about a specific team that had a lot of pressure on them, do you think there's a specific player that has a lot of pressure in them to perform well?
2 that come to mind for me would definitely be Joel Embiid, because of also the season he's having, and pairing with him Harden. Harden hasn't gotten a ring yet, so I think that the team that they have together and the matchups that they play the Nets. I think that will be a quick and easy series for the Sixers. But I think moving on in the East, they have to really show that they're a powerhouse compared to, the Bucks and the Celtics. So I think they have a lot of pressure on them.
Do you think that they stack up to, say, the Celtics or Bucks if they manage to match up in this playoffs?
I think talent-wise, yes, but I don't think like the winningness, the other things that you need to win. Like, I think the intangibles that the Bucks and the Celtics have go a long way just because of their chemistry and their experience. And I think that I don't think that the Sixers will be able to beat them in a series, but we'll see.
To answer my own question, like if I had to say a player, I'd say it's two. You just gave me one. At first, only player I had was LeBron, which I understand. I think he had torn his tendon in his foot, missed a lot of games. Recently has come back, and they're in playoff seeding territory, and he's one of the greatest players of all time. And I think as one of the greatest players of all time, I'm pretty sure technically LeBron has only missed the playoffs twice in his entire career. I think missing the playoffs this year would hurt his legacy, which he's already cemented himself as a top player in NBA history. But I think missing the playoffs can do more harm than, helping. Like, even if he doesn't win the championship this year. Well, I think I'd agree with the James Harden one because I can't recall a specific time where James Harden – actually, I can only recall one when I think it was Kevin Durant's – I want to say last year on the Warriors when Harden was on the Rockets and they missed the 27 threes, which before that game, he was actually playing really well. But yeah, I think James Harden has a lot of pressure on him. I think Russell Westbrook too, but not as much so as other players. But kind of talking about the play-in tournament, which is I believe today and tomorrow mostly, who do you think is going to win the play-in games?
I think the Lakers are going to have I think it'll be a tough game just because, the Timberwolves have Edwards. Edwards is always scoring, but we've seen recently they don't have the best chemistry. You saw Gobert get a little fight with Kyle Anderson. And, so I think that the Lakers are going to take that one. And then, I don't know, a healthy Pelicans team I think is scary. If they have Zion and Ingram, I don't know the current whereabouts of them. But
I believe Ingram – I think he's going to be able to play. Zion is very doubtful to play because he's had a lot of setbacks for a while, which I think for most of this season, I believe Zion did not play. So I think they'll essentially have their full team for what we've seen through most of the year. But I agree. I think the Lakers are probably if Gobert was playing, I think it's slightly different, but I think the Lakers will win. I think the Pelicans will beat the Thunder. The Thunder's a very young team. So it's surprising that I saw a stat, the average player on their team is 22 years old, which I think that's insane. Mm-hmm. But also let's just shout out to them for how well they've played.
Shea's a really tremendous player that's been going off this year, so fun to watch him.
So when you watch a basketball game, how much do you take in your own experience, being an Augustana player here?
Watching an NBA game, I think it's more of trying to learn from them. Mm-hmm. Definitely, for example, one of my teammates, during these open gyms, we've been watching how Curry and Clay have set back screens for each other and down picks, and we've tried to apply it to our open gym games. And so I think it's more of the application of what the pros do because, they're also tremendous. So, and also I think another thing would be the collectiveness of the good teams, the leadership behind the teams that tend to win. Again, the Warriors, Curry's leadership, I think his unselfishness, he could shoot a lot more, but I think that applies to lower level basketball and shows that the good leaders tend to, take the initiative and get wins for their teams. So
I understand. Since they went going back to your teammate and stuff like that, because kind of modeling Steph and Clay, would you say that maybe you're more like Clay, or would you say you're more like Steph with what you try to imitate?
More like Clay. I think setting up Steph is always the Golden State's motto, but definitely more like Clay. And one of my teammates, Anthony Cooper, is a tremendous shooter, so setting him up is always a goal because you want to get the good shooters open shots.
I understand, and if anything, also Clay has shown throughout his entire career that he can get hot. I mean, just the other day he scored. I don't know if he played the entire game, but against the Trailblazers, he scored like 17 in like the first 5 minutes, something along those lines. So, yeah, both of them can get hot. So and then it makes me happy to hear that. Here's the I guess big question: what would you say your NBA Finals predictions are?
The West, I think the contenders, I obviously want to see the Suns, and I think the Suns have a good chance because of the star power that they have. I don't know if their chemistry is on point since KD got hurt during warm-ups, but definitely the Suns. I think that the Warriors are always, can always find a way no matter what seed they are. I think they have a chance to keep winning. And then out of the East, the two I'd say would be Boston and Milwaukee. I think they just have them. Between Tatum and Brown, that star power is lethal. I think they have good pieces around them, and Smart and, Horford sometimes gets going in the playoffs, And then Milwaukee, Giannis spreads the floor for all these tremendous shooters, and they seem to have good chemistry off the court, and they have a really deep bench. So I think Milwaukee in the East would be my prediction. So,
yeah. We have the same prediction. I think it's going to be the Suns and Bucks. I think it's going to be a rematch because I think it was the 2021 finals. I think if, the Suns can which I think there's only been very few games where Chris Paul, Durant, Booker, and Ayton, if you want to include Ayton, all of them have played. I think if they really hit their stride, I think nobody in the West can beat them. I think the only team that would remotely stand a chance, and this is entirely dependent on if this one player plays, is the Warriors if Andrew Wiggins plays, which I believe some of the things I've been hearing is that he will be available for the playoffs, which I'm not going to confirm that because, I'm not connected to the Warriors organization in any way. I just think that without Andrew Wiggins last year, I don't think they would have beaten that Celtics team. His defense was crucial, and his offense. I think his defense is the only way to stop the Kawhis, the Kevin Durant's, the Devin Bookers, so on and so forth. But I think it'll be a rematch between the Suns and Bucks, and I think the Suns, with the help of KD, can get the better of the Bucks because I think when they played 2 years ago, I think really just the biggest thing is that, the intensity of a playoff NBA Finals, I think nobody on that Suns team, except for Jay Crowder, had been in the NBA Finals. I think that being there second time, they're like, all right, we know what we've got to do. We just have to go in there, execute. And, this might just be my mentality because, yes, every playoff game, every NBA Finals game is a big game. What I also think, just going out there to do what you have to do, have fun, I think the ultimate goal of winning the championship might come after that. What do you think about that?
Yeah. I like your take. The Suns, I think, can definitely get it done with their star power, and I think KD and Book will draw all the attention away from those other role players. Again, we haven't really seen Chris Paul do all that well in the playoffs before. He did when he was young.
Injuries.
Yeah. And then Ayton's a young rising star, so we'll have to see how the bench and those two guys do because all the other teams are going to be trying to take it away, Book and Durant. So,
I understand. Next question is with all the teams, even play-in teams, are there any teams that you're surprised that have made it to the play-in tournament or even the playoffs?
I think the Nets are one of those teams where you're like, wow, they don't have, their quote-unquote best players, Mikal Bridges now, and, he's been I love Bridges, but, you look at their roster and you're like, wow, how are they going to match up with the star power that's in the playoffs? And I think they might surprise, but I still think Philadelphia is going to show them.
I agree. If anything, even if Philly sweeps the Nets, I think every game will go down to, say, the final couple minutes. Because another stat I saw was that, when Bridges was on the Suns, I think he was averaging about 17 a game. But since he's been on the Nets, he's averaging like 27.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, I mean, like I feel like the Nets are just a combo of like really good, say, role players. They just don't have that superstar. But yeah, I think only reason I wasn't fully surprised with the Nets is because when they had Katie and Kyrie earlier, I think they were like top 4 in the conference. I think they're the 4th. I want to say the Nets are the 6th seed. I want to say, yeah, that sounds about right. Since they were already so many games ahead when they lost their superstars, they would have had to lose like every game to miss the playoffs. But I'd say the number 1 team I'm surprised with, I'll give 2 answers. Number 1, I'll say it's the Kings. I did not think that their season will have gone this well because, like, I've always thought that, like, De'Aaron Fox, Malik Monk, Sabonis, I've always thought they were really good players. I just didn't think that they would be this good this fast. I thought it would maybe take another year to kind of mesh together, especially with it was the Warriors' assistant coach who became their head coach. I can't think of his name right now. I thought it would take another year, but ultimately I've got to say this. I say the Knicks because I think it was 2 years ago when they had that really good season. I don't remember who they played in the playoffs. It was the Hawks with Trae Young. Then last year they didn't make it. They're back. So I definitely say the Knicks. Surprised with them. But other than that, is there any other things that you had on your mind about the playoffs? Things that you're hoping for other than a Suns win? Actually, no. Here's a good question to ask. Who do you think is the best player in the playoffs?
I say when performing in the playoffs, I think it's Curry. I honestly think that what Curry brings to his team and what he brings as a leader really stands out. There's tremendous all-stars all around the board, MVP caliber players like Jokic, Embiid, Giannis, but we really haven't seen them a lot as taking their teams as far as Curry has. So I think, if LeBron makes it, obviously LeBron, you can't discredit LeBron ever, but I think Curry is solidified as being one of the most tremendous playoff players that we've seen in this generation. So
I agree with that, and I think the one person that I'd have to say is probably Giannis because I think in terms of top players in the NBA, he's definitely up there. If he's not the most unguardable, he's definitely, I'd say, like maybe top 5. Like there's been teams like basically form a wall, and that wall doesn't work. It's almost like he's a football player, but in the body of a basketball player. Because like a lot of NBA players are super strong, but like when you think of NBA players being strong, I think of LeBron.
Right.
I'm going to say Steven Adams also, and then I'm going to say Giannis because like when attacking the basket, it's like you don't want to take a charge from Giannis or LeBron, but I think just really how he impacts the game, Giannis does with his scoring and finding shooters, whether it be Bobby Portis, Chris Middleton, just his shooters in general. I think he's the top player in the NBA. I think he's, which also I have a favorite player and I have a favorite team. My favorite player is Damian Lillard. Favorite teams, the Chicago Bulls, which they are in the play-in. So I think they've got a chance because I believe they're playing the Hawks. I have the East a little mixed up.
I think they played Toronto.
Yeah, that sounds more accurate. Because then I think it would be the Heat playing the Hawks. I think the Eastern Conference playoffs was truly the more anyone can win out of all the teams. I think the West, it might be obvious, but who knows? You could be shocked. But yeah, I think it'll be a great postseason all around. I'm hoping for not very many sweeps in a lot of 6-7 game series, fighting it out to the finish. Maybe even a couple of buzzer beaters because I can't remember the last time I've seen a playoff buzzer beater on the top of my head. I mean, I'm sure once if I saw a clip of one, I'd be like, oh, yeah, this happened just last year. But is there anything else that you'd like to add?
No, I appreciate you having me on the podcast, and I think it's going to be a great playoffs. I'm excited to watch the games and hope for a Suns victory, and
Yeah, I mean, if CP3 gets his first ring, I would not complain. Yeah, I think he does. That's the one thing that he needs to complete his Hall of Fame resume. But I just want to thank you for your time, and I appreciate you hopping on the podcast with me. This is your host, Jaren Smith, and I'll see you next time. That's all we have for this week's edition of the Augustana Observer Podcast. I wanted to thank you all for tuning in to this week's episode. I'm Jaren Smith, your host, and I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.